So in this demonstration we're going to be looking at the data in terms of being able to navigate it through it easily, keeping track of where you're at in terms of the observations, and keeping track in terms of which variable you're dealing with. So what we notice is that we've got a large number of variables. We scroll across there, and we've also got a large number of observations. And quite quickly, when you scroll through the data, you can use your arrows or page down, you can see that we get lost in terms of where we're at. Is this the salary, this column referring to salary? When I go across to the right, which observation am I at? So I really want to keep track of that. And the default normally is to start at the top of the data set, and one of the buttons that we can use to do that is press on Control Home. So if I press Control Home, it takes me back to the top of the data set into A1. So that's always a good button to know, is the Control Home. So you notice that what I want to do is keep a track of those variable names at the top. And one of the ways to do that is to press on the View toolbar, press on Freeze Panes, and you can see that we can keep that top row frozen. So we press that, notice this black line comes up in the data. Well, that allows us to keep that top variable names always available to us, so that we know that if I'm in this column here in B, I'm referring to the position ID. If I scroll across and I'm in column K, I can see that I'm referring to whether the position is to do with teamwork or not. We press Control Home again. Notice that when we've been scrolling there, that we've also been losing track of which observation we're at. So what we can do is click on Freeze Panes, and we can freeze that first column, so that when we scroll across to the right, we always know whether we're referring to column observation 1, 2, 3, 24. But notice, unfortunately, this time we've lost the variable names again. So how do we keep both the top row and the first column frozen, so that we keep a track of our variable names and the observations? Well, we click on B2, and I'm just going to unfreeze the panes first, so we're back to the starting position. If I click on Freeze Panes again, and notice it says Freeze Panes there, it says keep the rows at the top and the column to the left visible, so that when we scroll through now, everything to the top of B in the first row and everything in the first column is going to be visible to us, so we can keep a track of which observation we're at and which variable we're dealing with. So when I'm in K29, for instance, I know that I'm dealing with observation 28 and I'm dealing with the variable teamwork. And one of the other things that you can also see is this, when the data set's quite large, you can zoom in and out of the data with the bottom right hand corner quite quickly. That allows us to see the data in a bit more detail, or if we want to be able to see it in less detail and maybe get a better picture of our data in terms of how big it is and where we're at in the data set, we can use the zoom function there. We've also got the zoom to selection, so we might want to focus on the first, say, 7 observations or first 10 observations. We can press on the zoom to selection, and that just brings up in quite detail those observations there. So there's a couple of ways to keep a track of where you're at in the data set. Most importantly, keeping a track of those variable names that you're using in the data and which observation you're at, using the View and the Freeze Panes function.